Hello and welcome. It has been a bit, but we're back with more of our God of War stream. Unfortunately, I managed to pick up a summer cold, so I was out of action for a couple of weeks, just trying to recover from that. You may hear it in my voice. I'm still not 100%, but I actually have a voice, where I didn't have one. Not the week just gone, the week before. I had no voice on the Thursday. And then the Monday last week was not so great. And then I thought, rather than rush back to streaming, I'll give myself another stream off, just to make sure we're back where we need to be. But we're not going to, do much of anything. We're going to jump straight into our gameplay. So let me swap to the full screen here. Where we got up to last time, there was a fight on an elevator with a bunch of enemies. And we got off the elevator and we got some health. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what we have to do because I've forgotten. Something about making our way to the Hall of the Gods or something, to speak with Athena, because Morpheus has knocked Apollo or Helios out of the sky. Whole bunch of stuff. We'll find out. Let's get into it. I keep going to press R1 for this stuff. Because I just refilled the stuff, let me just save it, just so we don't have to deal with it again if we reload. It's hilarious that we just went down a giant elevator and now we just run back up a set of stairs.
As Kratos stepped out into the eternal night, much had changed outside the temple. Morpheus grew ever stronger as his harbingers and darkness continued their relentless march.
Oh, come on, I hit the thing. This is the problem with these stick ones, is if you don't do it exactly as they say, the game's like, oh no, you failed. It's like, I kept losing health from the thing. See, and that's why I saved it, because I figured we'd end up back down here if we died. And we did die, and we ended up back up down here. the narrator of the Greek saga.
As Kratos stepped out into
This
the
voice is
eternal
Linda Hunt.
much had
If
changed
anyone's ever seen
outside.
NCIS Los Angeles, the first
More
dozen seasons,
ever stronger.
she played Hetty Lang.
As harbingers of darkness continued their relentless march.
She is actually the voice of Gaia, the Titan, the mother of Zeus. Yeah, we want to take out this guy. That way we can just now focus on the smoky cat. Sneaky little bugger, hiding just out of camera. I do have a bunch of fans going near me right now. It's just over 31 degrees. So if you can hear anything in the background, do let me know. You shouldn't be able to. The noise cancellation should cut out the fans, but not exactly a complicated puzzle, this one. Well, yet, you know. Give it time, as they say. Yes, I see that, but I want to get the chest first. Hey Steve. Yes, it is actually surprisingly good. It does lag at times, like I can see the lag, especially when I'm like doing stuff. but for the most part, it's fairly decent. Let me just make sure there's nothing else there. Well, we had last stream, you know, like 2 weeks ago now. We did have an elevator fight already. But, you know, that's just part of the fun, I suppose. What are we doing with this guy? Nothing? Nothing. Oh, God of War 3 was notorious for elevator fights. It's sadly not just a God of War 3 thing. Even bloody the reboot had a heap of bloody elevator fights. I remember there was one. I had no problem with any combat at all up until that fight with the angels or whatever, and they just absolutely kept punishing me. So I ended up dropping the difficulty because I couldn't get past it. No, this is the first one. It's towards the end of the game, maybe like 2 hours to go, in the terms of the story. Yeah, the problem is the game hadn't had anything like that up until that point. It just sort of came out of nowhere, but you know. Okay. But that's fine. We've got months until we're up to that game again. See, I went on into the other side. I went to the right side of the thing, not to the left. Yeah, it was just a weird, you know, not difficulty spike, because, you know, the God of War games have always had those. But it just didn't make sense for the scale of the game, I suppose. Yeah, no, he was too. I have to try and remember what the controls were because I can't remember what they are. Move, block. There we go. L1 and circle. I have to ask Steve, did you see the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine today? Strangely enough, I didn't even see the teaser. Not for any other reason that I wasn't watching the Super Bowl, so. I do laugh though. I said this last stream. I laugh how in this game, the floor here is so reflective. It's reflecting the lights. It's reflecting the pillars. You can see to the one here that Kratos is standing next to. You can see the reflection in the ground. Right, this marble is polished so well that that's how much it's reflecting the world. Except it doesn't reflect Kratos in any way, shape, or form. Kratos is officially a vampire according to this game's lore. Yeah, Twisters was weird. Like nobody thought they were ever going to do anything with that movie property because, you know, it did well, but it wasn't like massive.
You must hurry, Kratos.
Well, Kratos is a vampire. He has no reflection. Oh, 100% that's the reason he's pale. Maybe the ashes of his family must just act as like a natural sunscreen for him and lets him actually walk around outside. Move over Blade, he's the original Daywalker. Hey! Kratos is now officially a merman. I was also having a think yesterday about what the next game series would be after this one. I want to do all the Zelda games. Unfortunately, two of the games, one game's going to cost me like $200 to buy, which is ridiculous. And the other one I've never seen for any cheaper than $1,400 or $1,500 US. And I'm not sure I'm confident that paying, you know, $2,000 for a bad game would be worth, you know, the investment. Is that where I'm supposed to go? But I decided, because I was thinking, I'm like, oh, what can I do, what can I do? I have almost all of the Medal of Honor games, bar a few. And I'm like, that'll work, I'll do Medal of Honor. So after we slash and stab everyone for a year, we're going to shoot a lot of people. I was gonna say, I feel like we're due for a fight. Oh. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the problem that the series has with doing. It's the problem that any series has with doing prequels. Like, you look at Star Wars, right? The original trilogy, iconic stuff. The prequel trilogy, episodes 1 through 3, and you know, the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch and all that sort of stuff in terms of animation. They all have fantastic designs, but they can't go past episode 4, right? At no point will we ever see any of the Jedi Starfighter ships or the Naboo N1 or, you know, the Venta class shuttle. Nothing from that era will ever make it through to the sequel trilogy or anything past that point. And if they do, it'll always be, you know, broken or something. And it purely comes down to the fact that because we didn't see them in the original trilogy, they can't exist anymore. So it's the problem that every prequel has, is they have to come up with their own stuff, but then they also have to come up with a reason why none of that stuff makes it past that particular product.
As Kratos entered the cave, Eos, goddess of dawn and sister to Helios, sat above him, visibly weakened by the absence of the sun.
All glory be to Lord Zeus for granting you safe passage to me.
The king of the gods does not aid me, Eos. I am but a slave to Zeus and Olympus.
Save my brother,
Oh,
Kratos.
she's topless.
And he will convince Zeus to release you and rid you of the horrors of your past. I give you my word.
The gods have broken their word to me many times. Forgive me if I find it hard to believe your promises.
Be that as it may, Kratos. The primordial fire is almost out. Without Helios, the life-giving light of the world cannot be sustained. If you do not find him, only darkness and death awaits all of us.
Where has Atlas taken him?
I do not know, Kratos. Follow the passage out of the cave. Retrieve the fire, and it will light your path to the remaining steeds. They will guide you to their master. They will take you to my brother. May you go with the speed of Hermes, Ghost of Sparta.
It's a good thing I flagged this game as an adult game, because, you know, nudity. What was I saying? Yeah, so just character designs can never get reused from prequels. If a ship exists somewhere in, like, the original trilogy and they bring it back in the prequels, then sure. But beyond that, no. It just never works. Oh. Yeah, the other issue with prequels is story-wise, like it's the biggest problem that I had with Smallville. Like, I love Superman as a character, and Smallville, I was at that age where Smallville was like, hey, he's a teenager like me. But the problem is that every time, like, it was a cliffhanger at the end of the seasons, like, will Clark survive? It's like, of course he survives. He's fucking Superman, right? They always tried to put, you know, him in danger for things, and it's like, but he's Superman. That's the story you're telling, so of course he's fine. The fact that you're saying, you know, that he may not survive means you don't understand the character. It's like the same with here. Like, they're going on about, you know, oh, if you save Helios, I will make sure he talks to Zeus to release you from your servitude. And it's like, okay, if you've not played any of the other gods, or if you're playing them in timeline order right now, you're like, okay, this is interesting. Maybe he'll get free. Maybe he does something else in the other games. But we know that's not what happens. So trying to put that nugget in now undercuts the fact we know it doesn't happen. So it's just a weird thing. To repel enemy projectiles, tap L1 immediately before the projectile connects. Oh, come off it. Look, I mean, comic characters are a little different because, you know, comics can go 1,000 different ways, but especially if it's an original thing. But it's like, if your character is Spider-Man and you're on issue number 4 of a 10-issue run, you can't put Spider-Man in a place where he's not going to be Spider-Man, right? Because nobody's going to buy Spider-Man issue number 5 for the Mary Jane Watson saga. It's the same reason that it pissed me off in the first Insomniac Spider-Man. They had sections where you're playing as Miles and Mary Jane, and neither of them had any abilities other than crouching and hoping they didn't get spotted. Well, it's like in Avengers Endgame, right? Going into that, you knew characters weren't going to make it. You didn't know who, you didn't know how, but you knew characters weren't going to make it. Yeah, that's a perfect cliffhanger, right? It doesn't mean the character's going to die. It just means the character's in a position where we don't know what's going to happen. And even with that, they still, like, there's this shot of, you know, him with his finger exposed and he's like charging up his power on the metal chain. I think I've got enough to upgrade something. No, not yet. So we know he's got, you know, a plan to maybe get himself out. But it's like, will he do it? Who knows? It's just one of those things where if you're doing a cliffhanger, it has to be a legitimate story reason. And it can't just be because you're like, well, if we do a cliffhanger, it means this or this.
Hurry, Kratos.
It's the reason why, like, Suicide Squad, you know, with them literally tasked of killing the Justice League, it's like, okay, how are they going to get around from there? How are they going to get out of it? Rah. There's only so many options that they could do to avoid killing them. And let's face it, they probably wouldn't do all that anyway. Yes, I would like to save. Well, I don't know if it was inevitable because of that, but I think Rocksteady were specifically looking to do something very different, and you know, not peg themselves back into being the you know, the Batman guys. But that being said, you know, there's nothing stopping them from doing a Batman game again. Though, that being said, a lot of the developers, like the studio founders, left before the game was done. A lot of the folks working on the game have apparently left the studio. You know, they're off to doing their own thing. There's the expectation that a lot of them have jumped ship over to the new studio that the Rocksteady founders have started up already, so who knows what they're going to do. Oh god, we're at that damn elevator again. Oh look, they could easily do, you know, Wally West, you know, reverses time to avoid, you know, that, or Supergirl or something, right? There's 100 ways they could get themselves out of it if they wanted to, because, you know, comic book logic. And as much as I despise Miles as a character, because he's not the Spider-Man I grew up with, right? He's a more modern Spider-Man, right? Nothing against Miles, you know, for people who grew up with him or anything like that. But Insomniac now have two Spider-Men, right? So they can literally, you know, kill off Peter Parker if they so desired, and they would still be fine. Obviously, that would piss people off, but they could do that. I will say, though, I'm very happy that at the end of the game... Have you played Spider-Man, Steve? I don't want to say the post-credit spoiler if you haven't. Yay, we can upgrade. What's this? Yeah, we don't really use those things. That's fine. Oh well, I'll tell you. I'll say anyway. So at the end of Spider-Man 2, the game, not the movies. You know, there's a knock at the door with I can't think of her first name, but Mrs. Morales. Her date has turned up and brought his daughter with him, and the daughter's name is Cindy Moon, and Cindy Moon is a new character, and I say new like in the past 15 years. And the reason why she's new is that her code name is Silk, and the story is that the spider that bit Peter Parker didn't die once it bit Peter Parker. It went on to bite Cindy, but unfortunately Cindy, the reaction with her was so strong that she ended up like in a cocoon for a while and and she's actually like, because the same spider bit both Peter and Cindy, they're like joined essentially, like twins, if you will. So but nobody's done anything with that character outside of the comics in forever. So I'm very happy that somebody's finally doing something with that character.
And again, the melody returned, and it almost seemed familiar.
That's the thing. So the character of Silk, like, they didn't do a lot with the character in the comics outside of, you know, interacting with Peter or anything like that. It's just one of those things where it's like, there are more characters, more hero characters in the Spider-Man realm than just, you know, the 4 or 5 that we know. That's the thing with Captain Boomerang. Obviously, like, he was in the first Suicide Squad movie that people hated. But the thing that really annoyed me with The Flash, the TV show, is they put him in there in, like, the 7th episode, the 6th or 7th episode of the first season, and they made him a bit character where he, you know, oh, I've got boomerangs, and he threw them, and then Flash caught them, and he was gone, and that's it. It's like, hang on. Captain Boomerang is literally one of Flash's biggest adversaries, and you've just gotten rid of him like that. it was such a stupid choice. And then, like, they brought in Leonard Snart as, you know, Captain Cold, which is the other sort of big Flash villain because he's smart. And they did it, and it worked. But they didn't keep the character around. They sort of offloaded him. And Wentworth Miller, he was a fantastic Captain Cold. Yeah, he absolutely was perfect in that role. But for whatever reason, they underutilized his character. See, I've never seen Prison Break, it just never appealed to me. But I do like the fact that in The Flash, they gave the role of, what's his name, Heatwave or whatever it is, to Dominic Purcell, who played the brother in Prison Break. Oh, I have no doubt it has its good moments. It's just, it's one of those shows that never appeals to me. Same thing with Breaking Bad. People go, oh, Breaking Bad's a fantastic show. It's like, I don't care. It's romanticizing drugs in some fashion. I don't care in the slightest for it. There's just, I don't know, there's just something about that show, just, it does not appeal to me in the slightest. I'm very particular with the shows that I watch. When I say years ago, I'm talking, you know, 20 years ago. I was watching anything and everything, because, you know, I was a vasting. So I was, you know, oh, this show looks interesting, I'll watch it, right? You know, oh, that show looks interesting, I'll watch that. So everything was, you know, just, oh, I can just get this, I'll just watch it, it's not a problem. Which is obviously not, you know, good long term. So in the end, I ended up just sort of only watching what was interesting to me, and then I realized I started running out of time, so I was just like, you know what, let's just watch exactly what I can watch and nothing else, because, you know, there's no reason to watch 100 shows a week if, you know, it's 100 shows worth of crap. Okay, I'm with it. Yeah, I don't know. Every time people go, I should watch Breaking Bad, I'm like, no. Like, Game of Thrones is another one. I watched the first season of Game of Thrones like everybody was. And I was just like, I don't know, there's something about this didn't sit with me. So I sort of left it alone. But then, of course, it took like 2 years for the second season to come out. And by the time it had, I just moved on, right? Because it didn't stick with me enough that I'm like, I've got to keep watching this. But what happened was I gave it a go and I got 4 episodes in and I was like, you know what? Nothing's happening. Like, not a damn thing is happening here right now. I don't know what people think this game's supposed to be, this show's supposed to be, but I'm bored out of my skull right now. The Walking Dead also got to me for that reason too. Both The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, you know, their seasons were defined by the one big moment. Like, you say to anyone who's a Game of Thrones fan, you go, oh, how about the Red Wedding, right? And they're like, oh my god, the Red Wedding, oh, and they go off and on about that one. But if you say to them, hey, tell me something else that happened in that season alongside the Red Wedding, they have no clue. They couldn't tell you. Like, they can only ever tell you about the Red Wedding, because that's all anyone remembers from that season. But that's my point, right? People always tell you about the Red Wedding, or, you know, the one shot in the final season where there's a giant caravan of people and the dragon swoops down and immolates them, right? Like, they're happy to tell you about those big moments, but the episodes on their own, no clue. Nobody knows what the hell was going on. Right? And I'm not saying, like, I love SG-1. I think SG-1's a fantastic show. I'm not saying SG-1's better than the others, right? But what I'm saying is, at some point, if you're you know, I can tell you about an entire season of SG-1 because each episode had its own little bit going on. There's a grander narrative at play, but that was really it. But for Game of Thrones, people only ever remember the big stuff. I'm very, like, there's one show that I watch every episode of when it comes out, and that's The Rookie with Nathan Fillion. Because I like him as an actor, but I also think the show it's got a lot of humor and a lot of, you know, a lot of thoughts. There are some characters that piss me off to no end, and I will, you know, generally, if it's an episode focused on them, I generally don't care. But for the most part, it delivers across the board. There we are. But yeah, I am very, very, very particular about what I want to watch and what I think is worth watching. Like, the second season of Halo has started, right? Started last week. There's 2 episodes out. And I haven't started watching it yet because the first season was just so weird. Nothing about it just sort of clicked with me. And I wasn't chomping at the bit for a second season. But like, apart from like the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus, like, I don't watch anything else these days because most of the time it's not worth the hassle. Look, the first season's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. but it's like everything they've done, everything they do. It's just like, yeah, but this isn't how it happened in the game. This isn't how it worked here, or this isn't how it worked there, and rah rah rah. There's always, you know, a little bit. Oh, geez, get off that. There's always just something not right. It just doesn't click. But the thing you need to know about that one is it's not. It's not an adaptation of the games. It's an adaptation of the world. Unfortunately, too many people thought it was going to be a direct adaptation of the games that they knew. And because it's not, they got shitty about it. Which I get. Oh, what are you doing? Climb up. See, I've read, cool, Kratos, cool. I've read a number of the Halo books over the years, and there's something about them that just sort of appealed to me, right? So I know the character of Master Chief, or John 117. So I know him and I know what he's capable of, and I have no issues with what they've done with the show. But I think there were too many characters that didn't make sense for that show. There's enough going on in that show that if you're a fan, it'll make sense to you. But if you're not a fan, you won't feel lost because they do explain a lot.
As Kratos left the temple, he was assaulted by the army of Morpheus, and again, he heard the haunting melody. But this time, he recognized it as the song of his daughter, Calliope.
Calliope? My daughter, where are you? Calliope!
She's dead, dude. Again, there's nothing wrong with the Halo series. The last section's kind of weird with the forced first-person stuff, kind of like the Doom movie with The Rock. But beyond that, there's nothing bad about it. Like, one of the things that annoyed me with The Last of Us, is because it was a straight adaptation of the story. And let me put this into context. The story of The Last of Us, the reason why the game works so well is because as you're going from moment to moment, you know, as you're sneaking through the infested museum as Joel, and you've got Ellie there and whatever her name was, right? You're sneaking through, right? So the actions, the consequences are on you. As a show, you're watching it just take place. There's no control, there's no ownership over the action. So whenever they would jump from story beat to story beat, right, in the game, there's usually a lot of stuff you've had to do, and they cut through that. So what I was hoping for in that adaptation was that they would take the characters and the overall story, but they would expand on elements. But they didn't really do that. The only character they really did anything with was Bill, you know, because they made him gay. But outside of that, they didn't do anything with anyone else. It just didn't click for me for that reason. It's like, I was watching it, and essentially for me, I'm just watching a bunch of cutscenes of a game that I've played. And yeah, if you're, you know, never played the games, it's fine. But if you're somebody who's played the games, it's like a book adaptation. If you have read a book and then somebody adapts it into a movie or a TV series, you know what's coming. So it's hard to get excited or, you know, concerned when a character is in danger. Yeah, expanding on episodes would have been a fantastic. And then when they said they're doing a second season, right? And then now they've cast, I can't think of her name. I just know her as the youngest daughter in the Tim Allen show, Last Man Standing. But when they cast her, it was like, okay, cool. Why? It's like, now we know that Abby's in the series. It's now instantly undercut any growth options for the characters, because between the first game and the second game, there were years, right? Ellie was, what, 10 or 12 in the first game? She's like 17 or 18 in the second. So there's, you know, an entire, you know, 5-year period where they could have done more, like build out the world, build out why there are survivors that have a town and rah, rah, rah. But they don't. They've just jumped straight into retelling the second game again. I'm just having a quick look. Okay, so we're about to release the steeds, according to this walkthrough, which would make it the th chapter, which is the halfway point. See, I would have loved Season 2 to have been completely about just the town and then growing and everything. Because the problem that the second game had is, you know, we knew Joel from the first game, but we didn't know why their relationship deteriorated so much in the second. So when he, you know, dies, it wasn't as impactful apart from the fact that it was just him.
Kratos was now in the hands of the beasts. And where they would take him, he did not know.
Yeah, most PSP games are only half a dozen hours or so. I love the idea that Kratos has whittled a flute for his daughter using just a big knife.
As the steeds pulled Kratos away from the grip of Morpheus, they crossed into the underworld. But in the land of the dead, they could go no further, for these beings of light were not welcome in Hades.
Yeah, he's got the skill, but it's like, of all the things to do, like if he had like tools to it, sure, but he's got a giant knife. And I get carving the outside, but getting the actual hole in the middle, that was just weird.
Kratos found himself on the very edge of Hades, the land where no mortal had set foot. Here, where the souls of the dead walk their fated path, Kratos knew that for him, this was merely the beginning.
Actually, we're halfway through. I don't know how much longer I'll stream though. I'm starting to cook in this room. I've got a fan on me, a fan on the PlayStation, and a big fan next to me, and I'm still cooking. You've got to be shitting me. He literally just leapt on me out of nowhere. Like, he wasn't like telegraphing his attack or anything. And I'm pressing L1 and R1, and Kratos is like, nope, I give up. Oh, nice. When I saw the code come in for it, I was just like, aha. And then the guy was like, I'm so sorry they've taken so long. You would think a game being this big, they'd have sent them through sooner. I'm like, that's fine. It is what it is. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with Kratos taking a nap, but you know, I draw the line to him doing it in Hades hanging off the side of a cliff. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't care about the Persona series myself. It just doesn't appeal to me. It just doesn't make any sense. What? You can't be a Gorgon. You've got to be shitting me. She didn't attack me. She just turned me to stone and that was the end of it. Oh, it's because I was in the air. I didn't realize I was in the air before. Look, it's not the setting or anything. It's just something about the games that just don't appeal to me. It's like the... I don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of anime. I have no issue with, like, that vibe or anything, but it's just something about that series that just doesn't appeal to me. Oh, not two of these bastards at once. That's not fair. I'm literally stuck in a corner. Look, I think Persona 5 really fixed a lot of the issues that non-Persona fans had with it. Like, because the first 4 were always niche experiences. They weren't massive or anything. But like 5, especially the Royal Edition, like that really, I think, drew people in. Oh, come on, I just killed 2 of you. Ah, crap, wrong button. Well, I think the Persona 3 remake that was the big one. Like Persona 3 was the one that did really well for them. So I think them remaking that particular game, you know, after the success of Persona 5 makes sense. I also think, and I don't have proof of this, but I also think it doesn't hurt that Atlas and Sega have a whole, you know, influx of cash from Microsoft. Okay, well, let's not try to just jump off the edge that way. Son of a bitch. No, it wasn't a buyout. So Sega Sammy is the company that owns Sega. And what it was is 2018, 2019. There was a deal that Microsoft struck with Sega to basically give their tools to them. May have even been 2020 now, think about it. May have been 2020 because of the pandemic. But basically, Sega were given access to the development environment that Xbox uses. So the cloud servers, the Azure data servers, the tools, all the works. And it was like a cash injection as well. Because if you recall, it was around that time when, you know, all the Yakuza games started coming to Xbox. Like a Dragon, Yakuza 8 Like a Dragon launched on Xbox before it launched on PlayStation. You know, and now Persona 3 is in Game Pass, the Persona 1 and 2, well, they were in Game Pass, they've gone now. But a whole bunch, like all the Yakuza games are still in Game Pass, apart from the actually, I think the recent one might even be in Game Pass. No, sorry, it won't be because it's a big game. No, the SMT3 remake was done outside of that deal because it's actually not on Xbox. Yeah, so Like a Dragon, Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name is on Game Pass. Yakuza Like a Dragon, so the Yakuza 8's on, Yakuza 7's on Game Pass. Like a Dragon Ishin's on Game Pass. 0, Kiwami, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all on Game Pass. So all except the most recent Yakuza entry, Infinite Wealth, are all on Game Pass. I say Yakuza because more of them are called Yakuza in this than Like a Dragon. But yeah, so part of that deal was they're all on Game Pass. So, but yeah, SMT3 remake is PS4, PC, and Switch. Because it was announced during a direct, I know that. Yeah, no, you reviewed the Switch version. Yeah, remaster was Switch, PS4, and PC. So. And that's another thing that annoys me about Persona. Persona fans, like the diehard Persona fans, they're all like, Persona is a great series, and most of them don't even realize it's a spin-off series. Like, it's a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. Alright, I'm going to find a save point and I'm going to end the stream because I am cooking. That's it. It's the same with like, oh, what was it? Etrian Odyssey? There's another game series that started out as one and then became something different. Yeah, it's kind of weird how they've done it. Like, oh, what? There's a big one. Oh, Devil May Cry. The Devil May Cry series is a spin-off of Resident Evil. And it's not a spin-off in that, you know, it's connected to the same world or anything. But Resident Evil 4, the GameCube original, one of the early prototypes was a more action-orientated game. But it, however, didn't wow the Capcom executives when they were like, you think this is a good Resident Evil game? So yeah, what ended up happening was they went back to the drawing board for Resident Evil 4, but they kept the idea of this action game and it became Devil May Cry. So wasn't there a save point back here? Whoa! Yeah, there's a whole bunch of Devil May Cry references in... Okay. In that game because of that reason. It just sort of, you know, most people don't realize that's how it came about. Oh, there's another one, like Final Fantasy... Is it Final Fantasy Tactics? Or is it Final Fantasy Adventure? But the whole Mana series, so Trials of Mana, Secret of Mana, the upcoming Visions of Mana, all spin-off of What was Final Fantasy Adventure? There. See, there's so many bloody Final Fantasy games, you can never keep track of them. Well, no, Final Fantasy Adventure is the first mana game. Because the next one is Secret of Mana. And like Nintendo fans go nuts over the Xenoblade games, Xenoblade Chronicles. But, you know, they're a spin-off of Xenosaga. I don't want to fight. That's what I mean, like, the Xenosaga. Yeah, your save point. The Xenosaga stuff, obviously, you know, they're dated today, but they were pretty popular back in the day. But people honestly forget that Xenoblade Chronicles wouldn't exist without that series. Because they're technically part of the same big series. So, yeah, there's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of weird things that there are a lot of series that owe themselves to other games, and most people forget. But yeah, I'm gonna stop here because I'm literally, my hands are sweating like crazy. I'm cooking in the room right now. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of cool games around that wouldn't be around today if there wasn't, you know, a game that is directly responsible for it. I'm not talking about games that are inspired by, like Dante's Inferno from EA is inspired by God of War. But I'm pretty sure God of War had its like the first game itself had an inspiration from something else. There you go. David Jaffe was he said he owed the concept owed a debt to Capcom because he played Onimusha and said, let's do that with Greek mythology. And I'm pretty sure Onimusha is a spin-off of something else too. There you go. It was designed to be a ninja version of Biohazard. So yeah, there's a lot of that sort of stuff where a game will be made and it won't be quite right, or it won't have something. Nintendo's notorious for it. They will often have, you know, a design idea for a game and it won't work in game A, but it works in game B. So stuff like that. I don't know. It's just interesting how they do it. I am going to do a raid before I finish up. Just make sure she's still streaming. Yes, she is. Okay. We're just going to do a raid to my friend Ujix. So yeah, so she's streaming a little to the left. It's a puzzle game. We'll be back on Thursday for more God of War. Hopefully the temperature's going to be cooler so I can actually stream the full 2 hours. Stupid bloody temperature. Stupid summer weather. But yeah, so that reminds me, the first game is all up on YouTube. I have to make them not private because I've been lazy and forgotten about it. But they're all up there, so we're slowly starting to put them across now. Yeah, look, weather-wise, let me grab my brand new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. I didn't actually pay for it. Samsung sent it to me. What are we looking? Thursday, 22 is the high. So yeah, I'd say, we're 14 degrees less than today's high, so we'd be doing pretty well. Yeah, no, I'm reviewing that phone. Fancy. But yeah. I mean, I have my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and then I have this for review. So yeah, back on Thursday for more of that. The raid's about to start, so thank you for watching live. Otherwise, the replay is on YouTube, but we'll catch you next time.